Howdy everybody, here for another garden walk video, just showing off what's living, thriving, and struggling here in July on 2025 in my permaculture orchard. So here is a bare root jostaberry I planted. I don't think it was alive when I got it, but I planted it, and you never know, sometimes things like this will pop up next year. It's a walking onion with it. A couple walking onions with it. There's another next to that strawberry. That strawberry's doing well. That one's doing so-so. But when I planted it, it already had some companions with it. Over here I have one of those comfrey divisions from a few videos back, a few shorts back. Doing really well, taking off on its own. Here we have a whole bunch of potatoes doing real well. Haven't really maintained them or done anything for them. And while the Japanese beetles have hit it pretty hard, the dogwood over here is still alive, so that's a good thing. See, moving on to along this row, there is sage, and like I've said before, my Szechuan peppers did not make it. They were not as cold hardy as I was told, and they all perished. None of them have come back from the roots even, so I can't even grow them like figs. But the sage I planted next to it, well, it's supposed to be variegated, and that's very, very not variegated. It's still good sage, still growing quite well. Started with a very small amount, so it has grown a lot. So I can sell plugs of this or chunks of this and propagate it. I recently learned that sage was chewed by philosophers and students in ancient Greece to help with memory, and recent studies show it does actually help improve memory function. So I'm gonna pop that in just like a tobacco chewer's dip, just to soak on it and make sure I don't forget anything with you guys. So here we have one of my gummy berries. For those of you who have been watching this whole time, my gummy berry started out this tall because I chewed it to the base of the tube. So they've shot up very well on year 2. They were planted late fall, so they're doing great for a plant that's not even been in the ground a full year. So they're doing great. Turning around now, there's one of my skirret plants already just barely in flower. I'll be able to do a permaculture plant profile on them soon. And inside of this tube, you can see a comfrey I planted last fall is really killing it. But down in there is a Kusa dogwood I got from Brambleberry Permaculture. Another sage that was companion plant to Szechuan. As I keep walking over here, here's another Brambleberry Farms Kusa dogwood. They both died back to the ground, but they popped back from the roots pretty quickly, pretty well. And then again, my other gummy berry. I believe these are both sweet scarlet, which I now kind of regret. I'm told sweet scarlet both isn't very sweet and isn't very big, so it's not really all that great in any way from what I've heard. So I regret it. I should have gotten carmine or a couple others, but that potato next to it's doing real well, and it's doing real well. It's a nitrogen fixer. If I really hate the fruit, I can use it for chop and drop for the rest of the time. And if I do like the fruit, I can still propagate it, but I'll try to get a carmine at some point. Continuing down the row, another completely dead Szechuan pepper. And then over here, I think is also going to be completely dead, though the stuff around it is growing just fine. The potatoes are doing just fine. But this stick, I pulled it out so it'd have at least some chance, but yeah, this little twig here was a Cornelian cherry dogwood. It was only like 6 inches tall when I got it from One Green World. Don't know why it was so much smaller than the other stuff they sent me, but yep, it was doing okay-ish, but the Japanese beetles found it and completely devoured it. Here's my last Szechuan pepper, and again, none of them made it. So we're going to start making our way up to the next row. Here we have some very happy asparagus pushing its way up through the mulch, up to the top, around an aronia berry. That aronia berry has a lot of things planted around it. It's got a cut leaf coneflower back here. It's got the eastern bee balm. It's got a couple potatoes. And it's got a river locust, which I expected might struggle here due to the dryness, but it's been doing just fine. As far as I can tell, they are thornless and great nitrogen fixers. So happy to have it. I believe I got that from Brambleberry Permaculture as well, and I should specify I got a very small but not bad price of Eastern Bee Balm plug from Ironweed Nursery, and it has grown to probably quadruple or more its size in a single year. And the aronia was from Indiana Berry. So can recommend all of those companies so far. They have all done great by me. Though Brambleberry Permaculture, you will have to visit in person in South Indiana if you want anything from them. Here I have one of my Baptisias. I believe I got two to four of mine from Bluestone perennials. Bluestone's a little bit pricey, but they have some amazing varieties, and I have pretty good success with them. And then probably my best growing aronia right now, looking very good. There is some damage from Japanese beetles, but not too bad. And I will have my first actual flush of berries this year, if nothing comes along and eats this. So they are very prolific, and the deer seem to eat them pretty often, so I leave them up at the front so they don't eat the rest of my orchard. They just focus on that. There we have another Baptisia. We've got that, which is very young and tender, but it's an aronia sucker that has grown up and underground. I can shove a shovel right in the middle of that in a month or two and divide it and have a whole new plant that I could sell or gift to a friend. Here it's a little weedy, but there is another Baptisia in the mix there. More potatoes everywhere, of course. Those of you who watch the potato video will know that there are potatoes absolutely everywhere out here. Another cut leaf coneflower, another aronia, and some squash that volunteered up from the compost. It was some squash I stored all the way through winter, but they weren't a good storage variety. I don't know how they lasted as long as they did, but they finally spoiled, so I dumped them out here, and they very quickly took root. Here we have a much healthier river locust, and it too has sent up a sucker, though much closer. These 2 or 3 branches down here are a separate plant from this main mother plant that I planted. And while it's late in the year, it does have some flowers on it. Small but pretty. Another aronia. There are some columbines down there that hopefully by next year will produce seeds so they can start self-seeding. There's a very beautiful daylily. I don't remember the variety, but I got it at a local nursery. Heading over this way, I don't know if I ever showed this part of my nursery or orchard before, but my mom had planted, before I even got back here, 3 sweet bay magnolias. So I do have magnolias, and these are some kind of squash volunteers that I planted much earlier. I have no idea what they are, but they have a couple squash on them. And the squash vine borers have already come through for the year, just come through and left, and yet they're all doing fine. The leaves seem to be fairly deeply ribbed, so maybe that would tell me what they were if I was a bit more experienced, but it's another one there. They're shaped like spaghetti squash. My family likes spaghetti squash, so if that's what they are, I'd be quite happy with that turn of events. They look like there's some squash vine borer damage down there, but I'm guessing they have rooted along the stems because they are doing just fine. Got some beans. As I walk over this way, you might notice that while I still have some garlic, the elephant garlic has been harvested underneath my redbud tree. So it has been harvested. My regular garlic I'll harvest probably next week. Right here I have a wild bee balm, just doing its thing, collecting energy. I do not expect it to flower this year. It's already the time that it should be flowering if it was going to. I instead expect it to save up energy for next year. There's some strawberry runners coming from the strawberries I've planted up there. I believe these are flamingo. Could be wrong. Some asparagus, and all those pointed bean leaves are my Powatomi rabbit beans. super excited to see them growing again. I planted them earlier, and I generally am very hands-off with them. On to the next sort of area, we have 2 asparagus I accidentally put very close to each other because I planted that one deeper and this one more shallow. So this one was still underground by the time I gave up on it and planted this one, and now I have 2 very close, but it should be all right. Now here next to this post, I believe this one is an echinacea, but I could be mistaken. There's comfrey growing everywhere, happy as can be. And behind the comfrey is my one surviving jujube tree. My other jujube tree did not survive the cold of its first year. And then very small, but right there, is one of my chamomile plants that I planted much later. I planted it when Gurney's sent it, and it did not do anywhere near as well from Gurney's as the one that I got at the local farmer's market. There's a very late planted currant. I don't remember where I bought it, but it was on sale because it was a bare root and it was summer, so it's not doing amazing because it was planted so late, but strawberries around it, and a bee balm that I believe was just a branch of a bee balm that fell off, and I just stuck it in the dirt while I was planting because I had already accidentally mangled it, and so that's volunteer almost. Here we have catnip, which is a cross between a mint and a catnip. Quite beautiful. The bees love it. Mine's not doing as well as it was last year. I don't know if it's because we've been so wet or because we've been so hot, but it's struggling a bit. But I'm sure with enough time and care, it will keep trucking along. Here we have my yellow goji berry. A lot of people would think goji berry can't grow here, but it does. I have no idea what happened to the plant that caused it to grow an elbow like that, but yep, they are a desert plant, but they are a cold desert plant, so they adapt quite well. And right here are the unopened flowers, so I will probably get berries this year. Now, as I continue along, I have stuff everywhere, so I'm just trying to make sure I don't overlook anything major. There was my best producing raspberry last year, and it has spread like crazy. I should probably bring my shovel out here sometime soon or sometime in fall. I don't know enough when the right time is, but raspberries are so prolific I don't have to get it right. But I should remove some of them and transplant them all over the place because it produced incredibly well. In here is a green twister echinacea from Bluestone Perennials. It's not quite open yet, so it doesn't look as pretty as it's going to, but there's more babies coming up on the way. I've not been pointing it out all the time, but there's more asparagus here. And this is a plum. The last tree I forgot to even mention was a plum. So 2 plums. There's a pepper I transplanted in right there. It's taken its time to get its bearings, but it's growing now. These, I have no idea what they are. They have volunteered, and I don't know if they're runners that have come out of the actual plum or what. There we have another pepper I transplanted in over here. All throughout, I tried to plant a lot of citron watermelon. So I don't know if these are going to be the citrons or not, but I planted a bunch of citron watermelon out here to try to grow some. I'm told they grow very quickly, and even in our short season, they should do just fine. So, continue along this walk. It's not obvious by the color of everything, but we just had a big storm roll through. So the temperature outside is a little muggy, but nice and cool at least. Here we have an Ann plum. And on to the last part in line here. I apologize that not all of this is going to be photogenic. It appears something has found my compost and dug through it. So there's a few rib bones and things like that, but those rib bones are also what feed everything. So I'm not terribly worried about them being here. That's just calcium and phosphorus that's going to break down over the next couple decades. Bone doesn't break down very quick. But there's a tayberry, cross between a blackberry and a red raspberry. Tayberry comes from Scotland. There is a pile of asparagus right there, taking in tons of energy to grow strong roots. we'll continue this walk along this way. And here's another jostaberry that I think died altogether, but the strawberry next to it's still surviving for now. And as I walk over here, sorry about the vehicles, more volunteer squash, more volunteer pumpkins, and these have just exploded out into the walkway. If my family was up for cooking the squash blossoms, I could pick tons of them, because we have tons of them. If I had to guess, these are probably some kind of, obviously Cucurbita machata, but they're probably turban squash. And in the middle is my medlar tree. It did have 2 flowers survive, so there's probably 2 fruit on here somewhere. Maybe, maybe not, but I didn't pick them all off, so I potentially could get a medlar this year, but mostly I'm just happy that it's alive. Really unique, interesting foliage. It's a very strange plant. Those are some kind of squash seeds as well, coming up from my compost. Here we are into the next row. Bee balm, comfrey. That's very young comfrey, very recent transplant. This is my wife's green gage plum. She's super excited to try green gage someday, so I'm growing this specifically for her. I got it as a bare root from One Green World. And also, something that she was super excited to try someday, so I got it specifically for her, is this Ponca blackberry. So hopefully it produces well. There's one of my bee baths and one of my echinaceas. This one is a fiery meadow mama. It's not nearly as pretty right now, but the first blooms were really amazing. Oh, man, I'm already at 16 minutes and I'm barely in anything. So here we go. More asparagus, more beans. Unidentified plant right there, but if I'm not mistaken, that might be Rosalie or Jamaican sorrel. I've tried really hard to plant it in a bunch of spots, so maybe it's come up in 1 or 2. Here is one of my Shapova pears. Here's my mulberry that didn't make it, but the grape that I put next to it is growing quite well, as is the gooseberry next to it. And right over there, one of our cats is buried, and the cutleaf coneflowers that I planted in memory of him are doing quite well. Back there, there's just an odd planting of a bunch of seeds and a bunch of clover I planted as a nitrogen fixer. We will start along the next steps. Everything's become incredibly weedy despite spending many hours weeding. It turns out that, having multiple acres of this stuff planted takes a lot of work. And I can't do this full time. I still have to have a job, unless my Patreon just blows up. But 2 aronia bushes that I am quite confident now I've planted too close to this apple, but I'll move them out probably in winter, fall, winter, or early spring while they're dormant to reduce stress. These are Nero aronias, which stay shorter than the Viking that I have up front. Like I said, this is an apple. Dodd banana, I believe, is the variety to be exact. And this big comfrey plant is growing right over where I put in a mint, so I'm just gonna throw it next to that asparagus. This mint is on its first year, and I'd like it to get nice and strong. Although it's not doing terribly, it's just kind of scraggly along the floor. Got some dandelions. I don't like to kill my dandelions, but I'm willing to drop them. So, might taste a little weird with my sage, but I've been curious about this type of mint since I planted it. It's called a banana mint, only available from Richters. Oh wow, it really is quite banana-like. Oh yeah, that is a really good, accurate banana flavor. I would recommend the banana mint. However, as you can see, it is definitely a clambering, low-growing mint. It's not going to be contained in the pot that I put it in. Just like my video before on chocolate mint. Upright growing mints I contain just fine as long as I keep cutting off the flowers. But these clambering mints, because they touch the floor everywhere, it will not just be sending runners, but wherever this touches will send in new roots. So there isn't a lot I can do to prevent it. But that banana flavor is shockingly banana. Wow. I would never have expected it to be that accurate. Anyhow, getting into one of the older apples on this side, we have an asparagus that is, if it were upright, would be taller than me, but as is, it's still my shoulder height. Big comfrey, growing quite aggressively. Probably needs trimmed back. Most of the flower heads are all spent, so it needs that anyways to keep producing nectar. But there's a blueberry in front. Mound here with a bunch of compost in it. And some kind of squash that I planted on the mound. If I'm not mistaken, I took some rhizomes off of my bee balm that I had at the furthest back corner of the property, and I stuck a rhizome in there, so it seems to have propagated just that easily. Over here, just a volunteer squash, but if I'm not mistaken, this looks... No, I thought it might be a patty pan, but I'm not quite sure what that one is. But some kind of squash that volunteered. There's a lot of squash that I planted and a lot of squash that I didn't. The ones with the white veins I'm quite confident are some kind of Cucurbita machata. They've been growing quite slow compared to the rest so far, but they also don't seem to have any pest issues, unlike, this whole vine is dead. So whatever that vine was, the squash vine borer is completely destroyed. But working my way through, you can see lots of pale sickly looking stuff and frass coming out of it. Squash vine borers have done their deeds here. But it is what it is. In there, I see Hopness vine climbing up through all of this asparagus, and there's another apple there. To give you some context of that apple, it also is the same apple that has a lot of, what's the word? That apple has a ton of, God, I'm really blanking the words here, aren't I? It's got the raspberries. There we go, the raspberries. Lots of really big, taller than my knee, not as tall as my belt, but tall potato plants. I believe these are all ozette, which are a little more difficult to clean, but such a cool variety with such a cool history, I did not want to pass them up. But another apple. These apples are all quite sickly because they've been just demolished by the Japanese beetles, but we're doing what we can there. There's what's the word? Onion, walking onion. And then tons of strawberries all over. Tons and tons and tons of strawberries. Some comfrey from that recent video. Some asparagus from spring. Strawberries absolutely everywhere. That's my smallest cherry, the one that I was worried about because it didn't grow at all in its entire first year. It's probably got 1.5 feet on a whole bunch of different branches. It's not growing straight up, which is fine with me. There's a bee balm there and a blueberry there. To continue straight though, before we get too far off, there is a tree I planted yesterday. So if you've ever wondered how dirty do things look the day after or a couple days after, they're pretty dirty. All that soil is eventually going to wash back through the wood chips and going to look fairly normal. But this was on clearance super low at my work. It is a Kusa dogwood, and as you can see, it has been on its side a very long time, so it has a pronounced curve. I'm not planning to fix the curve. I'm thinking I'm going to try to get it to grow upright from here and leave that curve in the stem. Just leave it be a really unique, funky looking tree. It's comfrey next to it already because I did have a plant there that didn't make it, so it's got most of a companion planting already going. Here I have another red bud, and my balloon flowers. I've planted one there and one still in the pot. I'm going to decide where I want it. Here I have a whole lot of volunteers kind of taking over this central plant, the central plant being Rose of Sharon. But there are green beans coming up underneath. There's a green bean for those of you wanting to see the fruits of my video on growing green beans in the orchard. There's an asparagus coming through. There's all these beautiful plants that I think I've identified as mallowwort. Again, because of the rain, they're a little bit rough looking, but another pumpkin that I intentionally planted. And then in the middle, there is a cherry tree next to a currant. Cherry tree's been absolutely demolished by the Japanese beetles. It got it hard, but you know, it's not you can't do everything about it at all times. I've done my best. Another comfrey, another bee bath. As I meander over here, my honeyberry up underneath. All right, sorry I spin this camera around a lot. I've got a lot to show, a lot of ground to cover. Another blueberry. Here we are at that same apple I just showed that's all eaten up. We're crossing back in. It's a weedy mess over there, but there is another cherry, another chestnut over there. Not a lot to show off around them except strawberries. But back here, more strawberries, another honeyberry. And way down at the bottom, I think they've been getting too much sun, but those are sweet woodruff or sweet bedstraw. As I keep walking further in, here's another pile of squash. A lot of it has died from the squash vine borers, but not all of it. And as I walk around and look around, there's the patch of decorative yarrow, but I could have sworn I saw some fruit developing. Oh, yep. Let's see. Small and round, little pumpkins. I'm going to guess that those are going to mature either into a very standard field type pumpkin, or they're going to mature into some kind of hybridized version of a, what's the word, curry squash. It's faded, but there's a very pretty daylily in there. Lots and lots of raspberries around. Just a lot of stuff to look at. Comfrey volunteer bee balm that, not exactly volunteer, but bee balm that I tore off last fall accidentally. And again, I just stuffed it into the soil. Making my way over this way. So, I don't know what happened to that lavender, but that lavender just, it looked okay when I put it in the ground, but it just dried up no matter how much I watered it. I mean, I couldn't water it all the time, but I didn't want to overwater it, but it just dried right up. Beans around it are doing fine. There's 2 asparagus in the area that are doing fine. And this is the not the peace garden, this is the purple passion apple. Purple passion crab apple that's going to be red fleshed or purple fleshed. Very excited for it. And there's hopness growing in and amongst everything there. Another asparagus over here. Another asparagus over there. I'll keep making my way out here. There's some radishes I just dumped on the ground because they were old seed and they grew. We've been eating radish pods. Here we have one of my, what kind of apple are you? I forget. Arkansas black apple. Out here, an Odisso red love apple. There's Japanese beetles here and there again, but we'll do what we can about them. And it's surrounded by potatoes, but it also has some spring ephemerals that have held out into summer, surprisingly. Squirrel corn. And right there, there's a Old Spice geranium. So, it's made to smell like Old Spice. But big ring of potatoes around it. Start walking back this way. Here I see a sweet potato. Don't know if it'll harvest much, but a volunteer sweet potato. Here we have some volunteer tomatoes. Some beans around this chestnut crab apple. The motherwort that was featured in a recent video. Look at those quite beautiful flowers all around it. So it's gotten so heavy it started to fall over. And right over here is my chamomile. I'm letting it self-seed as much as I can. Here we have that one peach that has held on all this time. I don't know if it's still good anymore. Looks like it's got some bug damage maybe in a couple spots. Yep. Maybe. So, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be any good, but, you know. you do what you can for these plants. It's first year, so there's no competition to the pests that show up. Another asparagus with it though, some strawberries around the base. Walking back into another weedy space, but if I press past the weeds, there's another unique variety of mint. I think this is pear mint. This one is more upright, so it may stay contained. I'm going to just take a single leaf. Don't get any peariness from that one. Now, pear isn't as intense of a flavor to begin with, but this is my Asian pear. It's two different varieties grafted together. I forget their names, but I think one of them might have been honey sweet. And then it's a little bit shaded. I should come back and whack off that branch of the tree, but yacon that I planted for the first time is growing. Keep making my way forward, pressing through the weeds. Here we have some coneflowers that I've not given any care, and they're doing just fine. Some comfrey in there, some bee balm just drying up its seeds. This bindweed is awful stuff. I wish I had known what it was earlier on to start combating it. But what I mostly have been doing is just trying to free individual plants from it. Like right here, this Hills Hardy rosemary that I really hope is as hardy as I'm told. They say it can live here. We'll see if it does, because every other rosemary I've ever tried to plant just dies. It's a good King Henry right there, just doing its thing. Over here, there was a ton of walking onions, but they're pretty much done because of the hail that hit them. There's a bunch of raspberries around here though, so hopefully I get some of them. Down at the bottom here, there's this lemon thyme. Just do my best to try to save it too, real quick. You know, I'm really starting to think I need to get one of those propane weed burners and just annihilate this stuff anywhere I can find it. But oh yeah, I can smell lemon just from weeding in the general area. But here, let me take a sprig of it. I meant to just take the tip, but very lemony. Oh yeah, very lemony tasting. Yeah. Lemony up front, and then of course the actual flavor of thyme hits you. But sunchokes. Here's my marshmallow, which I had at first been told that marshmallow was where the taste of marshmallow came from, but no, it's actually the medicine. And the flavorings were used to make it more palatable so that children would take their medicine. But it's growing quickly, edible, medicinal. Great thing to have. Keep walking over this way. There's a regular thyme way in there, but I'm not going to force my way in right now. We are already 30 minutes in, and we're maybe 2/3 through everything. There's one of my Myoga ginger. I really need to shoot a video on the Myoga ginger. More hopness all around it, but that Myoga ginger is beautiful. You don't eat the roots on Myoga, and you don't eat the leaves when they're mature like this, but you can eat the young shoots, and you eat the flowers when they come up. They have this little thing that comes up out of the ground, and the flowers keep coming out of this little bud. You take the whole bud from just below the soil or just at the soil, you cook with it. It's a lungwort, another medicinal. Hosta way up under there. And we'll cut through some weeds some more. But there's my other Shipova. I believe that's my dwarf Shipova. As I walk on through here, there's a blueberry. Come back through here in a minute, but I wanted to show you guys, you know, for anyone doubting that you can't grow a fig plant at all, there's a fig plant, quite a large one. Whether or not you can get mature ripened figs in my environment, I'll have to see, but This is its second year, and it's growing fast. I could take cuttings from it and propagate it. I just really hope it eventually gives me actual figs. And over there, there's another variety of mint and another rose of Sharon. This one's not so sworn by volunteers. That one, again from Richters, that's wintergreen mint. Does not taste as intensely wintergreen, but smells very wintergreen. Here we have more asparagus, another currant. That one is one of my chestnuts. Walk back over this way. We have more asparagus. We have more beans. More beans. Have echinacea, asparagus. In particular, if I look back there, very beautiful echinacea. And while it doesn't look like it all that much right now, my autumn brilliant serviceberry, it's about chin height to me right now. But it's on its second year, hasn't been in the ground that long. I wonder if this is some form of pest damage. There are these gouges up and down it that I hadn't noticed before. Hope that's not gonna kill it. But another skirret. Keep walking back along this way. There's sea kale, beans, a hollyhock, asparagus growing really fast. There's a small sea berry in there, that's my male. There's another strawberry with a bunch of runners. Over here is a dianthus from my mom. This is a rhubarb and a walking onion that I've allowed to fall over. Hopefully it'll root like they're supposed to. Comfrey up in there. Honeyberry. There's my compost tea that I need to shoot another video on. But I guess I could give you guys a teasing update for those that have stayed for such a abysmally long video. But there's your compost tea after a while. You just mix all that moldy stuff in and you dilute it and use it. There's some asparagus behind it still, some strawberries. Here we have some volunteer tomatoes around my sad, sickly little witch hazel. Here we have my absolute best looking, what's it called, cut leaf coneflower, and it's got a hopness growing up it. So it's a good little companion planting even if everything around it is struggling. Another apple tree with comfrey and coneflower, daylily, all sorts of nice things all growing in and amongst each other. As I start off in this direction, here we're going to come up. I don't know why it's so sickly. It's done this late into the summer, 2 years now, but this is one of my bigger sea berries. She grows real well, and then she kind of takes a hard fall back. I don't know, but more comfrey, happily growing around my peace garden apple, with a bunch of asparagus around this peace garden apple, growing like crazy. And as I make my way around here, the tomato falling on its side. And there's one of my cold hardy prickly pear that's been sitting there since last winter. There's more beans, there's more sea kale, there's another sea berry or sea buckthorn coming out on the other side of all this. Oh, here's my other Arkansas black apple. There's one of my bush cherries, but the other one has died, so it won't have anything to fertilize it until I get another. More beans, more potatoes, which are about ready to harvest. This one is a yellow russet, Skill Colt's favorite apple, I'm told. Here we have my other peach. This one lost all of its peaches, but has been growing quite well otherwise. And it's got quite happy strawberries around it. And there's the strawberry runner that was going out into the path of the mower. I have now redirected it into not the path of the mower. And it should be quite happy here. Another cut leaf coneflower growing quite tall. Moving along here, through the weeds. I'll show you right up and over. There's the rest of my prickly pear cactuses, and they're actually getting bigger than my palm. Good amount of food per pad if I wanted to start cooking with the pads. There's some variety of mum that my mom requested. Sunchoke, comfrey, some potato that never did all too well, a baptisia on its first year. Here we have a cherry plum and a Flavor King Pluot. I'm told they fertilize each other, so I planted them nice and close. This apple that I filmed my mint video, the chocolate mint, is growing both heavily along the floor and straight up, so it's become an absolute monster. And then my little pond. The flowers aren't blooming right now, but you can see the arrowhead's doing quite great. The lily pads are doing quite great. Yep. And come all the way around for last part of this orchard. Comfrey from last fall looking great. Baptisia looking okay. And this is a peach double bloom, or double jewel, I think is what it was called. Right over here I have a trellis that is going to be way too small for it next year, but I have hops, so I will have hops to make beer or hop water as a medicinal. Alright, I'm going to cover the camera because otherwise it's just going to be shaking around terribly, but I'm going to run over to the nut orchard. Alright everybody, uncovering. Here we have my trellis, first trellis I built. This is a cold hardy almond, supposed to be self-fertile. Surrounded by more potatoes, you guessed it. Hopness growing like crazy all over it. Hardly any flowering, hardly any of the qualities of the wild ones. But these are some kind of an improved selection. So, quite happy to have them. They should produce a ton of food this year. Or I can propagate tons of them from what I have here. But right here, hollyhocks. I believe this is, yep, just a spent flower, popped off that easily. I'd like to get some seeds, but if they pop off that easily, I don't know if any of them will last long enough to make seeds, unless these are viable at this stage. But, yep, hollyhock. Some very tired, spent potatoes with, wild plums. Over there's nannyberry viburnum. The nannyberry viburnum's still doing quite well. I don't know if these are growing at all, but I've learned to wait with these general family. This is pecans and hickories. Those were the pecans. Right here was my shortest Japanese walnut, but after I put it in a bigger tube, it just shot up like crazy. So it's now my biggest. My old biggest is still my second biggest though, so it hasn't changed that much out here. There's my, what is this? This one is a thornless honey locust. It's been nibbled, so the thorning quality may reactivate, but should be thornless. And hopness growing all over the floor, surprisingly. It doesn't like the floor, so I don't know what it's doing down there, but growing all over the floor, growing all the way up to the top. Some asparagus over there. Yeah, all this stuff is just coming up from these little vines along the floor. But they are a great food source. Very happy I made a video on them. This, I don't remember what it's called, but I got it from Bluestone Perennials. But it's penstemon, maybe? I don't know if it'll survive our cold, but it says it's right on the edge, so we'll see. But it's quite pretty. Also from Bluestone Perennials, we have these, which are cherry brandy black-eyed Susans. So quite excited for them. They should spread both through rhizomes and through seeds. And over here, I recently killed off some of the weeds to get more sunlight through, but there's a Crandall black clove currant and a bee balm. Here we have my happiest looking shagbark hickory, though when I was looking into the place I bought it from, apparently it's mixed with a pecan, so I don't know if it's actually going to become shaggy. I really hope it does. I bought it for the habitat for bats, not for me. There's my second tallest Japanese walnut, and it is just shy of my height. The volunteer redbud. Lots of ragweed that has volunteered itself as well. Birds can eat it, I don't mind it. There's currant, sunflower. Right in there is one of my just pure shagbark hickory seedlings, and it's got raspberries next to it that are doing quite well. Walking over this way, some kind of squash I've planted out here, and it's got an asparagus coming up under it. Oh, sorry if y'all saw that. There's a dead bird out here. It happens when you've got cats, but yep, didn't see it until then. There's another raspberry here, some beans. Walking over this way, have more spots that I've buried compost, and right here, also from One Green World. It's just barely coming out the top of that tube, but that's my American Persimmon Proc. Proc is supposed to be a self-fertile variety, so even if I've only got that one, it should produce just fine, and it should produce seedless. Here's my smallest Japanese walnut, which, considering how all the others are going, it's pretty decent. So, Japanese walnut. Here's my other thornless honey locust. It was chewed down by the animals down very low, like below my knee kind of low, somewhere down there. So all this is fresh growth on it. They grow quite quickly. I'm quite happy to see that I don't see any thorning going on. So despite the fact that it was chewed on during winter, it doesn't seem to have turned that gene on this time. And then my last Japanese walnut. So in a couple years I may start getting Japanese walnuts, which I could sell online. They're quite shelf stable. And from here, it would take far too long, but this is where my chestnuts start. So those first two tubes that aren't in line with the rest are Bart nuts. They're a cross between a heart nut and a butternut, or an American white walnut. So American white walnuts have disease issues that make them hard to keep alive, but the hybridization prevents the disease issues. And those two little tubes have American plums in them, and the whole back of the property, you see all the tree tubes, all the chestnuts. So there we go. Hopefully that video taught you guys something. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I think I only have one thing really left to show off, and that's that on this side, the pecans have woken up. They are alive. So we're not completely out of luck with the pecans, but I don't know how well we're going to get pollination on these. I'm told that they and my hickories can cross-pollinate, but still, that's my only real concern. Oh, and something's chewed up my other nanny berry. I need 2 of them to live, but I doubt it'll die. It's still so young, and while it's been mostly defoliated, it's still got a couple leaves, and we just got a big storm. I'll bet it's going to bounce right back. So, yep, thank you guys very much for watching, and hope to see you all on another video again sometime soon. I just wanted something pretty for the end, so here we go. There we go. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, everybody. Please consider subscribing if you've made it this long, and check out my other videos, check out my Patreon, all that sort of stuff. Goodbye.